Hello, how are we? Now, first things first, right? It's good to be out, eh?
Yeah.
I feel like Philip Schofield. Now, I started doing stand-up about 6 months before the unpleasantness, yeah? And my mate, who's a proper comedian, said to me, he said, look, what you should do is, when you get on stage and you get the microphone stand, he says, what you do is, put it as far away from you as you can, yeah? Because what that does is, it's nothing between you and the audience, right? It's building the bond of trust. I was like, good advice. But I'm from Glasgow. If you think I'm putting the only weapon at my disposal out of arm's reach, that's just not happening. Now, just for the amateur psychologists, right, as you can see, I am not in my first flush of youth, right? So I don't want anybody thinking it's a midlife crisis, okay? In Glasgow, you have that when you're 24 or 25. In fact, where I'm from in Glasgow, you get your telegram from your queen on your 60th birthday. Now, as you can hear from the accent, when I started doing comedy, it's like you kind of go with what you know, yeah? And what I kind of know is I'm a bit fucking Scottish, yeah? And more particularly, I'm kind of Glaswegian. Now, there are two differences to that, because there's a saying in Glasgow that you'll have more fun at a Glasgow funeral than you will at an Edinburgh wedding, okay? And it's like that for a reason, because it's fucking true. To give you a wee idea, I was at a funeral in Glasgow, again, not long before the unpleasantness, and I bumped into my pal Jim. Now Jim's a gay man, yeah? And Jim is an enthusiastically gay man, yeah? And I knew he'd been in a relationship and he'd come out of it. And I said, how are things going? He said, oh yeah, okay, you know, back dating, yeah, I'm doing a bit of, oh, that's nice. I said, in fact, I was out on a date last night. I said, oh, good, how'd you go on? It was alright, it was okay, but I got a wank off him. I was like, oh, well, you know, wank's a wank, isn't it? He's like, Jim, let me tell you something. Getting a wank off somebody, it's a bit like going to the supermarket and somebody packing your shopping for you. You're grateful, but you think, I'd do a much better job of that myself. Now, the other thing, and I'm going to let the kids are fucked off to be careful, because the other thing that happened where I genuinely had a gig that night, and so I was drinking non-alcoholic lager, right? So I wandered over to my pal's table and I sat down, my mate's like, what's that? I said, no, it's non-alcoholic lager. He's like, oh, no way, not a chance. I said, what's the problem? I said, Jim, non-alcoholic lager is like going down on your sister. He's like, what? I said, yeah. He said, it looks the same, it tastes the same, but it's just fucking wrong. Well, I think we need to kind of test the audience for that one. Yeah, I'll put that under, that's an asterisk one, isn't it? Well, at least the children aren't here, so we've got to be grateful for something. Incidentally, can I just thank Tom for asking me along here, because did anybody see the poster for the day? I'm glad to see that they put the Maradona goal on it, which is probably one of the greatest moments in Scottish football history, to be honest with you. Now, so, as I said, I genuinely did a gig when I was up there. And it's a kind of very bizarre thing. My mate asked me if I would compare a night for 3 poets, right? He kind of wanted light and shade and whatever. I said, yeah, no problem. So, I turn up, and just what Tom's done very manfully tonight, I go and I walk on stage, and in the front row, I notice there's this girl, and she's 13, 14 tops. She's 14 tops. So as I walk on, I say, hello, my name's Jim Burke. She just looked at me and just went, cough. Okay. So, second I said, okay, well, drink again. She just went to me and she said, hang off. I thought, right, okay. So I made a decision at that point, which is just to ignore her. Yeah, because you've got a choice at that point. Deal with it or ignore her. So I thought, I'm going route B. I'm going to ignore her. And fair enough, she worked that out for herself. But she just sat there, like that. Okay? So I do my 5 minutes or so, blah, 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 blah. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for first act. If the Jim I go, da 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 da. So I walk off stage and I go behind. And the guy who'd asked me to do it said, Jim, I'm really sorry about that. Don't worry, but it's fine. No, I'm really sorry about that. I said, did you not think I seen something there? I said, you know what, I was going to say something, but then I thought, that's somebody's mum. Yeah, look, as I said, it can be the kind of the stereotype, but the reality is, you kind of do your comedy what you know, yeah? And I kind of know, as I said, I'm Scottish. And the other thing I know is, as I mentioned earlier on there, I'm not in my first flush of youth, okay? In fact, I'm 2 years away from getting my Glasgow Telegram, if truth be known. Now, what I can tell you, and thankfully we've got people of an age here, which is quite comforting, right? But I also see some young team, as I call them, right? That's pretty much MD under 50, right? So I kind of feel that I've kind of got to let you know what's ahead of you, right? Trust me, very little of it is fucking pleasant, right? And now, like for example, I can guarantee you that dropping the soap in the shower at age 57 is far more dangerous than it would be doing it in prison in your 20s. Okay? Next up, white underwear. In fact, anything light hue from the waist down, after 45, 50, you're fucking kidding yourself on, right? And you're giving yourself a potential for serious embarrassment. So avoid that, okay? Because I reckon, in truth, I'm 58 this year, so as I say, that's why I'm 2 years old. I reckon it's a good 12 years since I last trusted a fart. And again, if I can keep things below the waist, alright? And because this is kind of what it's really all about. Just down there, right? Things fucking change, right? They change. In your teens, yeah? And your early 20s, when you have your first moment of the day, right? You could knock a clock off a mantelpiece for 20 paces. Okay? When you're having your first of the month, okay, there's a wee story we can fill in that. When it's pretty much just like wiping a child's nose. Again, lads, this is what's ahead of you. I'm going to finish up shortly, but again, like somebody said, I have to deal with the elephant in the room, and that was COVID, yeah? And it's just been horrible, isn't it? And what I would say is that I just want to go back to a normal time. I want to go back to a time where if I go into Tesco wearing a mask and staying away from people, I want my fucking Crime Watch reconstruction. And the other thing as well is, this will give another one. I'm not sure how this will go down, but you know, fuck, it's the last gag of the day, so it's happening. When one of the things I'm doing is when I'm with a girlfriend and you watch really bad television, right? And unlike some people here, I didn't feel the need to write to anyone in bad television. But watching bad television, and in my house we're not the biggest they're not anti the royal family, but they're not their biggest fans either. So I watched the Harry and Meghan interview, right? Because I kind of felt to myself that we were looking at a bit of social history here, you know? And you kind of had to watch it. Well, I did anyway, and I sat and watched it. And my girlfriend, who's not prone to, you know, overly out, you know, she was getting quite emotional watching it. I said, what's going on here? She said, I think this is very touching. I was like, okay, you're on your own here. But I said, I just think, you know, that this is just a man, he just wants to make sure that his wife doesn't go through the same thing that his mother went through. And I said, what, a windscreen? Now, my last life tip, which I'll just pad on to that, is if you're ever out shopping, people, and you're buying stuff for the house, do not skimp on the price of a mattress, especially if it's for your fucking spare room. So listen, with that, listen, you've been great. I've absolutely had a great time myself. Thank you so much. I've been Jim Burke. You've been magic. Toodle pip.